I'm Tim Alexander. I play with Primus, and I've been using Vater sticks since 2014. Going to answer some questions that have been presented through the Instagram and Twitter sites for Vater sticks. So here we go. The question is, do I like heavier sticks or lighter sticks, and why? For me, I like a thicker stick that is lighter. So the reason is, I've noticed when I'm playing, I find that a thinner stick closes my grip more, and then I create more tension around my hand. And so it's easier for me to have a larger stick, which kind of forces my hand into a more relaxed position. And that would be why I like the thicker stick, but I don't want the weight that would come with a thicker stick. So I'm using the sugar maple. It's lighter. I like the feel of it. It kind of absorbs the impact. Almost all the time when I hit a drum, I'm almost always hitting a rim, even on the toms. They're almost always rim shots. So I can feel the difference when the stick hits the rim. It's definitely softer and doesn't affect shot going into my arms. So I like the softer woods. The question is, what tips do I have for someone who wants to become a professional drummer? And there are many levels of professional drumming, and it basically means to get paid to play drums. So you could be playing in a bar, you could be making records, you could be a live drummer, a cover band drummer, I don't know, but I guess one of the main things you got to do is just figure out where you want to go with it. If your goal is to be a big rock star, I used to think when I was younger that I didn't want to play other people's music. I wanted to create my own music so that I could get to that point like some of my other bands that I admired, like Rush or Led Zeppelin or The Police, where that was their music. And that's where I started from the beginning, was with that in mind, of thinking that that's where I want to go. So I think the biggest thing is to start at the beginning and get clear on what you want. The question is, what is my Desert Island snare drum? My Desert Island probably doesn't have snare drums. It might, but for me, I like a lot. I kind of lend myself to wanting to hear deeper sounds. And even as I progress in music, I keep wanting to hear more sounds that are different than something I might hear all the time, like on a radio, like the kick snare stuff. So in the band Primus, luckily we're able to do odd things. You know, as a drummer, I'm not stuck behind the kind of kick snare hi-hat triad that kind of, most music is based around. So for me, I like to get big deep sounds, and even like with the octobans, I like to get that incorporated into a lot of music. But for snares themselves, I don't like something that's too loud. I like something that sits in with the rest of the kit, and something that's, I can hear all the little things that's happening, as well as get a nice crack, but not a crack that's overpowering volume-wise. So that would be my Desert Island. So the question is, what's my warm-up routine? Basically doing some stretching, especially for my hamstrings and my back, just to make sure they're loose. because I find sometimes I sit at the drums, and even though these might be pretty much the same every night, it just feels different, and I think sometimes that's just tension, muscle tension, because playing a larger kit, there's a lot of rotating and a lot of reaching, and if something's tight, it feels like, well, I'm reaching, but I'm not quite getting there. What's going on, So I like to try and loosen up good, stretching. And as far as for the hands, I like to get on a practice pad and just kind of do some basic rudiments, going in and out, creating a flow in between, going from singles to doubles, flams, sometimes paradiddles, and just going through like a combination of those that I'm not really thinking about. It's just kind of flowing, and I'm just kind of trying to get my mind in that state of just playing without thinking. And so starting practicing that way of just kind of playing and letting it happen, but trying not to stop in between changes or little subtle rudiments that are happening. Try to keep the flow going. And also air, not hitting anything, just doing some air stuff to get the wrist and the arms moving, because playing a larger kit requires swinging the arms a lot, and sometimes a little fast tempo. It's not just sitting here tapping, you really gotta move around physically. So I like to do that, try and move my hands around and do the air drumming, get the wrists stronger and warmed up. And then I think that's pretty much what I'll do, and I might start about 30-40 minutes before, just to, nothing intense, but just enough to kind of get the blood flowing and warm up well. This question is, do I have any advice on improv and phrasing? Well, for me and this band, we do a lot of improv within the structures of our song, and I think maybe one of the good things to know about improv is to know what your limits are, where you can and can't go depending on maybe what the song is or just your band, So, and an example would be if in Primus, we're playing a song and we get into like an improv space, I'm not going to start trying to play some jazz swing stuff because it wouldn't really match with where I am, and plus I don't really do that well anyways. So, but I would say, a good thing to know is pay attention to the environment and the music that you're in, and maybe don't experiment while you're improving live. Save that for practice, and usually you're in a show with an audience, save the messing around mentality for, practice time and improv, and kind of push yourself a little bit, but I would say do what you can do so that, you put on a good performance and not be stuck or not be stuck, but try not to lose your other musicians because you're going to see how, many bars of 7 you can fit into this phrase, or I don't know. But phrasing for me is about kind of building a song as a drum part. I like to think in terms of, I like to try to make my songs, each one have an identity rhythmically. So it's not all based around, I'm going to play a beat. It's about kind of more of an artistic approach of what do I want to say, what do I want it to feel like, how does it work with the bass and the guitar parts and the vocal part as well, where's the loud parts, where's the soft parts in the song, the dynamics, and so phrasing would mean creating phrases. um, Phrases for the vocals, phrases for the choruses, phrases for the verses, phrases for the bass part. Kind of everything I just talked about, you know, playing with the other guys, having parts. That's my concept of phrasing, is to build a song rhythmically within the song of the whole band. So I hope that answers that. How do I approach songs that I wasn't in the writing process for? There are, especially recently, of being back in Primus again I haven't done it for about 5 years. I have had to learn some stuff from the last record, the Green Naugahyde record, and that has Jay Lane on drums. And he's quite a different drummer than me. He's I would call more of a funk drummer, and I would be more of a rock drummer. So a lot of his stuff is based around the hi-hat, kick, and the snare, and using a lot of hi-hat rhythms. And they're challenging for me. When I got to talk to him, he said that, you know, he would probably have ended up being a left-handed lead drummer. So when I'm listening to the records, I notice that when I try to figure out what's going on, that the notes all fall in a weird spot, being a right-handed lead drummer. And so after realizing that, I've had to think how to switch parts so that it flows the right way, in terms of putting the snare where it needs to be. And so it's been really challenging, and it's made me better, because it's making me focus a lot on my left hand. And so, you know, I like to try to learn the music as well as I can as it is, and I do that by listening over and over and over and over. I have to hear it all the time. Eventually, where I know what everyone's doing, so I know what their parts are going to do, and that way I know the music well. When I know that the bass player is going to change a part, or the guitar is going to change a part, you know, coming up, and that just helps me too as a drummer. And so when I play, I hear all the music as one thing. I'm not really focusing about the part I'm playing. So I need to get the music at that level where I'm hearing the song just as a whole, not as, okay, this is the drum part. So that's how I approach learning stuff, just repetition and getting it inside to where I don't think about it anymore, and then practicing, training my muscles to move that certain way, because it's to get to that level of thinking about a song without thinking about it. It's more of a muscle memory thing, and I have to get those songs to that level where my body's just kind of reacting and I don't have to think about it. Next question is, what inspires me musically? I don't listen to much music right now, just focus on kind of getting myself back into drumming, so to speak. So I listen to a lot of the stuff that I need to know or work on. I'll listen to electronic music in my spare time, just kind of in the background, like dubstep. Also, sometimes I go searching for like percussion music, just to hear drumming in a different environment, you know, that isn't a drum set. And inspires me musically also is just other things, hearing a soundtrack in a movie, or some random thing you might hear somewhere. I don't know. Just anything can kind of create something happening in my mind musically. Yeah, so that's that. Next question was, what's my childhood drumming hero? My biggest hero was Neil Peart when I was younger, definitely. And John Bonham was very close to him as well. But I like Neil because of being a kid and listening to the radio in the 70s, and all of a sudden there's these big drum parts which no one was doing, and that really got me interested. And so, you know, it was great to hear a lot of sounds, you know, little drums to big drums to the progressive sound of odd times, and, you know, really good playing. I didn't know anything about jazz when I was younger, or maybe I would have discovered stuff a lot earlier, but when I heard Rush, that was kind of the effect it had, was, wow, there's this drummer that's not doing what you normally hear, and that caught my ear. So he was probably my biggest one for sure. Check out my stick at Vater.com, and here's what it looks like with two of them together. And check it out. It's awesome.